Under the soft breath of dawn, a lone figure knelt before a silent pond. The mist clung to his armor like memory, and his reflection trembled with the ripples of his slow, controlled breathing. The world around him was still, only the faint whisper of bamboo leaves moving in the wind. His sword lay across his knees untouched, as if it too was meditating. The man's name was Renjiro, a warrior of the old provinces. He had spent his life chasing mastery, yet today he felt the weight of an unseen battle, the one within. His master once told him, "The blade is sharpest when the mind is still." But his mind was not still. It was restless, burdened with emotions he could no longer control: anger, pride, regret, longing. The same feelings that once drove him to train had now begun to erode the very discipline he had built. He remembered the heat of battle, the clash of steel, the cries of men who still believed victory could fill the emptiness inside, and he remembered his own trembling hands after his first kill, not from fear but from the surge of something wild, a primitive pride, an intoxicating sense of power. That night, as the rain washed the blood from his blade, his master had stood beside him and said, "If emotion guides your hand, the enemy already owns your soul." Renjiro didn't understand then. He thought emotion was strength. He believed passion was purpose. But years later, he would learn that emotion is a flame. It lights your path for a while, but if left untended, it burns your discipline to ash. Discipline without emotion. The phrase echoed like a koan, impossible and profound. How could one act with passion yet not be moved by it? How could one care deeply yet remain untouched? The young warrior within him had rebelled against this idea. But the older Renjiro, the man who had lost friends, honor, and sleep, now sought that stillness as a starving man seeks food. One morning, when the cherry blossoms began to fall, Renjiro sought out his master once more. The old man was nearly blind, yet his eyes saw more truth than the young warrior ever could. "Master," Renjiro said, "how can I fight without anger? How can I endure without desire?" The master smiled gently, as if amused by the simplicity of the question. "You misunderstand," he said. "The samurai does not kill emotion. He disciplines it. He commands it as he commands his sword. To be without emotion is not to be empty. It is to be free." Those words settled into Renjiro's mind like stones at the bottom of a river, silent, heavy, and unmovable. Over time, he began to understand. Emotion was not the enemy. Attachment was. The mind clings to its feelings, its fears, its pride, until those emotions grow roots in the soul. A samurai must learn to feel without clinging, to experience without drowning. Discipline is not coldness. It is clarity, the difference between fire that warms and fire that consumes. In the ancient code of Bushido, discipline was more than habit. It was the alignment of body, mind, and spirit. The warrior rose before the sun not to prove his strength, but to greet stillness before the world awoke. He practiced the same motion thousands of times, not for perfection, but for surrender, to lose himself in repetition until ego dissolved. The world saw a fighter, but within he was sculpting silence. Every stroke of his sword, every act of restraint was an offering to that silence. Discipline without emotion means to act from intention, not reaction. The undisciplined man reacts to life. The disciplined one responds. The difference seems small, but it is everything. When insulted, the undisciplined burns with anger. The disciplined observes the flame but does not let it spread. When tempted by comfort, the undisciplined yields. The disciplined acknowledges the desire, then moves beyond it. The world believes this makes him cold, but in truth it makes him unshakable. Renjiro began to practice this in solitude. Each morning, he sat beneath a withered pine, the same tree under which he had trained years before. He watched the rising sun without reaching for meaning. He let the sound of wind pass through him, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And in those moments he discovered something strange. As emotion loosened its grip, life became sharper, more vivid. The taste of tea, the sound of rain, the feeling of the ground beneath him, all grew clearer. Without emotional fog, the world revealed itself as it truly was, neither cruel nor kind, simply as it is. In the West, people speak of motivation, the desire to act. But the samurai knew that motivation is a weak ally. It depends on emotion, and emotion shifts like the seasons. Today you feel strong. Tomorrow you don't. Today you're inspired. Tomorrow you're empty. Discipline is the way beyond that storm. To do what must be done, regardless of how you feel. To move forward not because you want to, but because it is the way. The modern man seeks freedom through indulgence, through doing whatever he pleases, whenever he pleases. But the samurai knew that true freedom begins only after mastery of the self. The undisciplined are slaves to impulse, dragged by every passing emotion. They are like leaves in the wind, believing themselves free as they are tossed in every direction. The disciplined man is like the mountain, still, centered. The wind passes, the seasons change, but he remains unmoved. Renjiro's master once gave him a task, to hold a cup of tea perfectly still for 1 hour. It sounded simple, but the longer he tried, the heavier the cup became. His muscles burned, his mind screamed for release. After only a few minutes, his hand began to shake. The tea spilled. His master said nothing. The next day he was told to do it again. For days he failed. Only when he stopped resisting the pain, when he stopped wishing it were easy, did his hand grow steady. Discipline is not endurance of suffering, his master said. It is surrender to it. This is what most misunderstand. Discipline without emotion does not mean without feeling. It means without resistance. It means acting with complete presence, detached from both pleasure and pain. The warrior trains his body to move even when his mind protests. He accepts boredom, fatigue, fear. He does not fight them. He includes them. He walks with his pain as with an old companion. This acceptance dissolves emotion's control. In the Dokodo, Miyamoto Musashi wrote, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not fear death. Do not regret what you have done. These are not commands of suppression, but of alignment." Musashi did not preach apathy. He taught self-command. The man who controls himself needs no control from others. The man who acts without emotional turbulence becomes unstoppable. His strength is quiet, like a mountain, yet unyielding as the tide. The modern world praises passion. Follow your feelings, they say. But the samurai knew that feelings are fleeting, unreliable, and often deceitful. Passion may ignite movement, but only discipline sustains it. Emotion is the spark. Discipline is the flame that endures. The man who chases feeling will forever restart his journey, for emotion fades. The man who follows discipline completes it, because he walks regardless of weather, emotion, or applause. Discipline without emotion also means to separate worth from outcome. The warrior swings his sword not to win, but to embody the act of swinging perfectly. He focuses not on victory, but on form. When success and failure cease to matter, what remains is mastery. The modern man ties his worth to reward, praise, and recognition. He works for approval, not alignment. But the samurai knows that the act itself is the reward. The process is the temple. Each repetition, a prayer. There is beauty in monotony when seen through the eyes of the disciplined. The same sunrise, the same practice, the same tea poured at the same hour. To the impatient, it is dull. To the awakened, it is sacred. For repetition erases ego. It dissolves the noise of wanting to be more. Discipline without emotion transforms routine into meditation. Each act becomes an opportunity to witness the self, its resistance, its distraction, its craving, and to let them go. Renjiro once asked, "Master, how can one live without emotion when the world is full of suffering?" The old man replied, "To suffer is human. To cling to suffering is choice. Emotion, like the wind, must be felt and released. To suppress it is to block life's current. To indulge it is to drown. The middle path is to observe it with calm awareness. This is the essence of Zen, the art of seeing without judging, acting without attachment. When a samurai faces death, his mind must be clear. Emotion clouds the sword. Fear leads to hesitation. Anger leads to recklessness. A single thought can end a life. So he trains not just his body, but his mind, to be silent in the storm. Every meditation, every repetition, is preparation for that silence. Discipline without emotion is the readiness to act without hesitation, without noise, without self. In modern life, this same silence is needed. When facing rejection, failure, or uncertainty, our emotions scream to react, to panic, to quit, to run. But reaction is the enemy of growth. The disciplined mind pauses. It breathes. It observes the emotion, then chooses its response. In that moment, freedom is born. The freedom to act not from fear or craving, but from purpose. Most people today confuse passion with discipline, comfort with peace, noise with life. But true life, true mastery, arises in stillness. In the moments when you move even when no one watches. When you train without reward, when you show up though your heart is heavy, that is where character is forged, in the unseen, uncelebrated moments of quiet persistence. Discipline without emotion means becoming your own master, not your own slave. It means you rise not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. It means keeping promises to yourself even when emotion demands otherwise. The man who does this no longer needs motivation. He becomes it. His actions no longer depend on mood. They are guided by principle. He is no longer swayed by the world's noise because his compass points inward. Renjiro lived the rest of his life in quiet training. He no longer sought battle or glory. His mastery was inward. Those who met him described him as serene, almost distant, yet deeply alive. When asked how he maintained such calm, he simply said, "I do not chase feeling. I honor the way." When he died, his sword rested beside him, untouched and spotless, a mirror of the stillness within. Discipline without emotion is the art of becoming like water, shapeless, patient, unstoppable. It moves around obstacles not through anger but through inevitability. It never rushes, yet it wears down mountains. The samurai learned from this flow to live with such clarity that every motion, every breath carries purpose yet no attachment. In today's world, we live surrounded by noise, notifications, opinions, distractions pulling our attention in every direction. We've built lives that demand constant emotional stimulation. The modern warrior's battle is not fought with swords, but with focus. His enemy is not another man, but his own wandering mind. Discipline without emotion is the shield that protects his energy. It allows him to work in silence, to create without validation, to endure boredom without escape. There will be days when you wake with no motivation, no spark. The weak will wait for emotion to return before they act. The disciplined will act regardless, and in doing so, they awaken the spark themselves. The act of movement creates momentum. Emotion follows discipline, not the other way around. This is the secret of every master, every creator, every warrior who has walked the path of mastery. They understand that feeling follows action, not the reverse. Imagine standing in the rain, cold and weary. You want to stop, but each drop reminds you that nature does not ask permission. The rain falls whether you approve or not. The disciplined mind is like that. It does not seek comfort. It becomes comfort itself. It does not seek control, it embodies it. The samurai walks through storms not because he enjoys pain, but because he knows that growth hides behind resistance. As you walk through your own modern battles, fatigue, distraction, anxiety, remember this: your emotions are waves, not laws. They will rise and fall. Do not obey them. Acknowledge them, bow to them, and continue walking. Each time you act without waiting for feeling, you forge another link in the chain of mastery. Over time, those chains become armor. Quiet, invisible, but unbreakable. There will come a day when your emotions rage like fire, when anger tempts you to act, or sadness tempts you to stop. In that moment, remember the pond and the samurai who watched his reflection tremble. Remember the stillness beneath the surface. It is always there, waiting for you to return. The samurai lived not to escape emotion, but to transcend it. His life was proof that calmness is not weakness, that stillness is not surrender, and that detachment is not emptiness. Discipline without emotion is the bridge between chaos and clarity. It is the quiet force that transforms pain into purpose, effort into art, and life into peace. Renjiro's story fades into legend, but his lesson remains. The warrior's true battle is not fought on the field. It is fought within the mind. Victory comes not from strength, but from stillness. The disciplined man does not chase fire. He becomes the forge. He does not suppress emotion. He refines it until it becomes energy. And so, when you rise tomorrow, when your mind resists, when your emotions weigh heavy, remember this truth whispered through centuries. The way of the samurai is not to feel nothing, but to let nothing control what he feels. Act with calmness. Move with purpose. Let your discipline guide what emotion cannot. Because the warrior's peace does not come from the world around him. It comes from the world within. And in that silence, sharper than any sword, lies the purest form of strength. The power to act, without emotion, yet with complete heart.